This episode of The Bill and Callie Show is brought to you by
the committee to elect Mary DeBoer.
Hi, this is Judge Mary. I wanted to share how very grateful I am for the supporters who have made those pink campaign signs throughout Porter County possible. My name is Mary DeBoer, your Porter Circuit Court Judge. It seems as though our country is more divided than ever. Crossing the political party aisle with the hope of working together has flown out the window. In a career spanning almost 30 years, I learned long ago that judges must not only enforce the law, but we must protect our communities and provide blind justice for all citizens. An honest and fair judge cannot be concerned with a person's political affiliation, race, religion, or sexuality. Fairness and equality make up the fabric of our justice system. Cast your vote for the Porter Circuit Court based on measurable experience and proven qualifications. Visit www.judgemary2020.org to learn more or to contact me directly. It is an honor to share information about our courts, programs, and efforts to best serve our community. A vote for Judge Mary, Porter County's only female judge, is a vote to keep the best qualified, experienced, and fair-minded candidate, regardless of party affiliation. This message was paid for and approved by the committee to elect Mary DeBoer.
The Bill and Kelly Show is recorded at Studio A at Executive Suite Squared in beautiful Hammond, Indiana. Now, here's Bill and Kelly. Hello and welcome to the Bill and Kelly Show. With us today, we are very honored to have Judge Mary DeBoer, who is the Circuit Court Judge in Porter County. Judge Mary, welcome to our show once again.
Thank you.
We're very honored to have you on the show.
It's a pleasure to be back.
The pleasure is all ours, believe me. Judge Mary has asked to come back on to explain a new program or a new court in the circuit courts having to deal with truancy. So, Judge Mary, do you want to explain a bit about that and tell us a little bit what's going on?
Thank you, Bill. The last time that you and I got together and Callie on the show, we were talking about unrolling, reopening the courts after COVID. And at the tail end of that, I was sharing with you a little insight about the fact that we were going to be starting a new program, a new truancy court that I thought would be a fun topic to talk about once the school year started. So that's where we're at. And I just want to tell you a little bit about it. First of all, why this is important. Truancy is one of those issues that I think gets lost in the shuffle of other offenses and delinquency and crimes. It's not a crime, it's a delinquent status offense. A status offense is something where you can get in trouble for it based upon your age or your classification. So, as an adult, you're not going to get in trouble as a truant. It's because you're a certain age in the delinquency realm, a child, that you would get in trouble for this. But one of the things that I think is important about truancy is that when we think about issues in our community that are pervasive, there's no doubt in our minds that if you were to scoop up a truant student from his home and drop him off at school, that is not nearly as dramatic as walking down the street and discovering a person who's overdosed from a drug. That's drug issues, and drug abuse and addiction is a huge issue in our community, and it's in your face and it's scary. Truancy is one of those little slippery things. It's as much of a problem for our future with our children, but it's not nearly as dramatic. And I think that it gets less of a rise out of people because it's kind of one of they skip school, no big whoop. Well, there are a lot of things that truants end up having some issues with later in life. For example, when a kid doesn't go to school naturally they start to disengage from their schooling. When they disengage, they tend to not do as well or fail out of classes. When you fail out of enough classes, then it gets to the point where you want to drop out. When you have a child that's dropped out of high school or a young person, that person is obviously going to have, well, potentially will have a lot more issues with obtaining good employment or being as financially stable as an adult. Those things then can bleed into other areas such as, a higher risk of poverty and turning to other things like drug abuse or criminality. Truancy has been linked to adolescent delinquency, and it's been linked to adult criminality. So those are reasons why, as a circuit court judge who hears adult criminal cases, and as a circuit court judge who oversees the entire juvenile system, I think it's my responsibility as a circuit court judge to do whatever I can to stop our kids from turning it from delinquents into the adult criminals. And so truancy, I think, is a good way to address that issue. Kids that go to school tend to do a little better. They tend to do less drugs. They tend to, then kids that are skipping out and sitting at home and looking for ways to get into trouble. So it's important. I think we need to focus on it. So what has Porter County done about truancy in the past? In the past, for the past 20 years, our Porter County Circuit Court program, our juvenile probation department, has set up a program called Project Attend. And I always have to read, I have to read the acronym because it doesn't roll off the tongue. Project Attend. Attend stands for Aiming Toward Truancy Elimination and Non-Attendance Decrease. So you can see why I'm not wasting brain cells trying to remember that. That's crazy. But the whole point of Project Attend is that we want kids to attend school like they're supposed to. Project Attend is a program separate from the truancy court, which I'll get to, but Project Attend is a program that focuses on early intervention with these families. Project Attend becomes a factor when schools have already noticed that kids are not showing up for school, and they've sent letters and notices to the parents, and those letters and notices have not changed the conduct of the kid. The kid still doesn't attend school like he or she is supposed to. They then get referred to the juvenile probation department, and then they will potentially become a part of Project Attend. Project Attend is a group of people from the probation department, a team, who will then sit down with the parents and the children who are not going to school, work out a contract with them to memorialize the parents' commitment to trying to get the kids back into school the way that they should. And then bi-weekly meetings start occurring at the school to make sure the children are there. There are home visits. There are just much more accountability when it comes to checking attendance for these kids and things like that. That is something where in a lot of cases, that's enough. That's all that we need. And kids will start going back to school because the parents have actually got the wake-up call and have committed to doing what they need to do. But I'm going to give you a real life scenario of a family where we've changed the names of the family for confidentiality. But this is the kind of pervasive problem that I'm talking about. And when you hear this example and know that this really happened, you're going to start to understand, I think, a little better about why this is such an important topic. We have a family that we're calling the Smith family. They were referred to Project Attend with the following attendance issues. The Smith family has 3 children, John, Judy, and Jane. So when John was referred to the Project Attend program, he had 14 absences, some of which were excused and some unexcused. But the previous year, he had 35. The middle child, Judy, she was referred to Project Attend with 24 and a half absences, but the year before, she had 54. The youngest, Jane, was referred to Project Attend with 13 absences, but the year before she had 29. So we quickly accepted this family into our Project Attend program. The parents signed the contract saying that they agreed to make sure that their kids were getting back into school the way that they were supposed to. Juvenile probation began the biweekly school meetings and checking the attendance and having home visits with the family. But within the first month, it was crystal clear that these parents were not going to abide by the contract. So the Project Attend team set up a meeting with the family and with the Project Attend team And the school and the deputy prosecutor, and they all sat down to try to figure out why these parents are just not getting on board with it. What they ended up finding out was that the family had much deeper issues than we had even known about, and they were issues that really kind of got to the core reason of why there was so much dysfunction and inability for the parents to get their children to school the way that they should. So one of the things that came out of that meeting was a commitment by the parents and the Project Attend team that the parents would work with community partners. And that's a division or an offshoot of the Department of Child Services, where individuals from community partners will go and work with the family to talk about financial instability, to help them with any medical or mental health issues that they may have. And I think those were three things that were kind of at the core of what was happening with this family. Now, because it's a DCS program, the parties don't have to pay for anything. So any services or anything that these parties would be offered would not be, there wouldn't be any barriers of not being, I don't have insurance to cover this, or I don't have the financial wherewithal to cover this. So that's a really good thing. We're giving them free help. Unfortunately, even with all of those efforts, with Project Attend being involved, with the school being involved, with community partners even trying to meet with this family to help them, the parents just couldn't get their act together. And so we set up one more meeting, and the parents didn't even show up for that meeting. In the meantime, over the 3-month span of time that occurred from the time that they became involved with Project Attend through the time of that meeting that they blew off, this is what happened with their kids. John had another 25 absences. Judy had another 32 absences. And Jane, the youngest, had 50 more absences. So if you think about a school week is 5 days, that's 10 school weeks. That's as long as an entire summer. How in the world is Jane ever going to catch up with that? Not to mention the ones that she had missed that brought her into the program in the first place. So we set up another family meeting to address these issues. The parents didn't show up. Where does that leave us? That leaves us with having to refer the parties to the prosecutor for educational neglect charges. And that's what we did. So educational neglect, I'm just going to tell you, it's a level 6 felony. The penalties for a level 6 felony are 6 months to 2.5 years of incarceration and a maximum fine of $10,000. So this is like now serious business for these parties. When a person or people do not successfully complete something like Project Attend, when we've offered all these things for them, you have to go, why did that fail? Well, there could be things such as abuse or neglect in the home that could be at issue. There could be such financial instability that these parties just can't find their way out of it. There could be medical needs in this family requiring a parent, or where a parent feels that they are required to keep a child home from school because that's the only person who can provide extra help to that parent. They have no other options. There could be cultural based attitudes toward education. And every once in a while I see this, but I can't wrap my brain around it. It's an attitude by a parent. Well, I didn't get an education. You don't need one. So there is that out there too, which is crazy. We have mental health needs of older children or parents who, may need to be addressed. And that's part of what's going on with the family. So when Project Attend fails, now we have something new. And that's what we've been working toward that I wanted to share with you today, Bill. That's our truancy court. And I call it Saving Our Future Now, because by taking action now, I think that we're doing things that are going to better our future, because these kids, we're taking them at a point when they're not doing so well. We're building them up and we're putting them in a position to face their challenges in a much healthier and strong way. So we wanted to form Truancy Court. Do you have any questions so far? I'm just like...
yeah, just a couple of things. One thing
Sure.
you brought about and these charges would be when you hand these over to the prosecutor, these are the parents being held accountable for neglecting to make sure that their children
Correct.
don't participate in their education. I just want to make that clear.
Yes. Yes.
And the other thing, and this is more of a statement, but I do find it refreshing that, you know, a lot of people fear the legal system and from law enforcement to the prosecutor to the judge, because they feel it's going to be a cut and dry system. There may be something at home preventing that child from getting to school.
Right.
What I find kind of refreshing legally and judiciously is that the court is looking into that reason to find out if there is a valid reason. Do the parents need help? Is there a health issue with the parents?
Right.
And let's bring in the pandemic. Oh my gosh, that's affected everybody. Did the pandemic cause something in that family to break, which is highly occurrent, that is causing that child not to attend?
Right.
Now, one question.
No, those are all really good points. And what I love about our juvenile justice system, especially right now, you know, we are much less of a penalizing kind of. We have much less of a penal focus on punishing, and much more of a let's figure out what the heck is going on with this kid and try to fix that while we've got him or her. Right. And so it all really is about trying to make these kids stronger and better and healthier so that they have the best chance. And there's a lot of different programs in our juvenile justice system over on at the Juvenile Services Center on 2, besides this truancy court. But the truancy court, I think, is one of those problem-solving courts where we can do a team approach to really wrap around services to the entire family to help not only the kids who are our focal point, but the parents who obviously are having enough issues that they can't get it together to have their kids succeed. So, you know, it's like you can't really fault the children, especially when you're talking about elementary age kids, for missing school. You know, if they miss the bus and mom slept through the bus for the 5th time in a row, and they can't jump in a car and drive to school. So that's where you focus on the parent and go, what is going on with mom? Why is she sleeping through the school bus every morning? And why aren't there options if she is? You know, we need to have, then do we need somebody to come and make sure that this kid gets off to school properly? So there are deeper things going on, and we know it's not clear cut, especially when it comes to things like this. When it's older kids, that's a little trickier because you have middle school age and high school kids who could be walking out going, peace out, mom, I'm off to school. And they take a left and they go have coffee at Fluid. You don't know what the heck is going on with these kids. The parents think, oh, well, my kid went off to school, and they never show up there because they're blowing it off and they're going and running around with their friends. In that case, you don't necessarily.
I got to clear, not that any adolescent should look at Fluid Coffee Bar, which is one of our favorite places, place to hang out.
Well, you know what I mean. I don't care what.
Yeah, we love the
fill in the blank.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah. So
yeah. So you have to in that situation, you know, the parents are doing what they're supposed to do. They just don't know. Now, if it becomes clear that the parents had knowledge of this and they're still not doing things or taking steps to ensure that their kids are going to school, then that may change the perspective. But, you know, we're not looking to beat up parents whose kids are pulling fast ones on them too. It's kind of then the kid is more the focus and pulling them into this system and having a chat with them about it. So there's different ways to look at it. There's so many variables with this kind of a situation that we want to be fair and try to get to the bottom of what is really happening in this particular instance with this particular child, so that we can make the best call on it. But the cool thing about Truancy Court Bill is that this is a gentle but forceful way kind of to monitor these failed families while providing them with the services that they need to make them more successful with the program, and then stronger, stable families so that their kids will flourish later. So the way that works is a child will be referred maybe through the juvenile probation department. The schools have reported that they continue to miss school. It goes to the juvenile probation department as a referral. The juvenile probation department probably has tried Project Attend. If that's not working, now they will make a referral for that child or those children to truancy court. On the other hand, we've got parents if they have been charged with educational neglect, those parents of those same children may be brought before the same team, the same court together, which is very unique in Indiana. This is the very first certified problem solving truancy court in the entire state of Indiana, which is what makes this so cool. When you have juveniles and adults, usually the line is super clear. You don't blend the two. You don't want to expose children to adult criminals. That's why you don't keep them in the same detention. You have a detention center for juveniles and a jail for grownups. You don't want the older people influencing those younger people. So you keep them separate. But in this particular court, especially given the nature of the offense, which is truancy, it's bringing the parents and the children together before the same team and the same judge to address the problem as a unified force, because obviously these parents and children are interrelated. So it's a very cool way to work with both sides of the equation at the same time, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. I did have a question, and
sure,
I'm trying to be careful here because I don't want to be held in contempt.
Yeah.
Because I'm
no promises.
Yeah. No. So let's go the worst possible route. I hate to even think about this. So they signed a contract, and there's still no resolve. The child still is not getting to school, and through investigation, there is no good reason other than these parents are just asleep at the wheel, and they don't have a concern over their child's education and their future. So what does that mean as far as prosecution? Once they're convicted of this, what type of penalties and are they could be looking at?
Okay, so let me tell you how that a parent that does get charged with educational neglect, how that would work through the truancy court, because then it explains both of your aspects of your question. The first thing is, if a parent is referred to the truancy court, in Porter County, a parent that gets charged with educational neglect could, in theory, end up in any of the 6 courts. We all hear those lower level felonies, and that's a lower level felony. So we have 6 different judges who have the ability to preside over an educational neglect case. The downside to having any one of us 6 judges hearing that is that we all come at our cases from different perspectives, our own personal experiences, our life experiences, our dedication to different areas in the community. So for me, for example, I'm very much about juveniles. So a truancy related or educational neglect related charge is going to hit me right in the face, because I am so much like, I want to get these kids on the right path. For another judge, something in his court may be more drunk drivings or something. So maybe truancy doesn't, or educational neglect doesn't bang on the radar as being quite as serious, and maybe they look at things a little differently. So you could have 6 different approaches by 6 different judges for how we're going to handle this, which kind of makes it more confusing for the community. Like, how in the world how does Porter County feel about this? Because this judge did this and this judge did this. So the cool thing about truancy court is, if the prosecutor and defense attorney agree that these parents are perfect candidates for truancy court, they will present a plea agreement to that judge. The judge will go through the change of plea hearing, and the parents would plead guilty to educational neglect. But the sentence would be withheld, and they would be sent to truancy court. And if they successfully complete truancy court, then the case would be sent back to the judge to dismiss their charges. So that's the best of both worlds. It says, okay, we have this over your head. We are serious about this. Come to truancy court, do what you're supposed to do. And if you do what you're supposed to be doing anyway, we'll send it back to the court, and those charges will go away, which is great, because then you're not facing 6 months to 2.5 years in jail.
Yes. All right. Yep.
If, on the other hand, they get sent to truancy court and they still don't do what they're supposed to, it gets sent back to that judge who did the change of plea hearing, and the judge can then impose sentencing. So the parties would argue what the parents should get, and the judge would make a decision. They've already pled guilty to it, and it would just be, what sentence should we impose for them? So it really has some teeth to it to have them comply and to do what they're supposed to be doing in the first place.
And the other question I have, and this is at the heart of the whole problem, what happens to the kiddos during that time? The parents are going to get convicted and eventually sentenced. What happens to, are they put in a custody of like family services or a foster family?
You know what? At this point, that has not happened yet. We haven't had our first case yet. We've got some people in the works in the system, but we haven't gotten it to the point where we've actually started the truancy court process. It's open and ready to go. So I don't know the answer to that. I can tell you that our goal is not to split up families. However, I am a firm believer that if you are not doing what you should be doing as a parent, then we will find somebody who will take care of those kids who will. I mean, that's what I feel. So, you know, these kids have one shot at a childhood. And if we've got parents who, like you said, are sleeping at the wheel and who don't care enough to worry about it, or are so eyeballs deep in issues that they can't do what they need to do for these kids, then we have to step in and figure out something. Right. So maybe a family member would be willing to do a guardianship. Maybe DCS would have to get involved. DCS can actually refer cases to truancy court as well. And it might be in the context that you're talking about, Bill, where it's so neglectful that DCS steps in and gets involved, and then they are involved with that truancy court process as well. So let me tell you real quick about the team, because this is where it could be really kind of interesting for what you're talking about. The team of the truancy court team, it's one judge and one team that works with the family from start to finish. So that team gets to know that family incredibly intimately and well. And the team consists of the truancy court judge, which would be me, a deputy prosecutor, a public defender, a probation officer, a case manager, a mental health professional, somebody from the school potentially, somebody from DCS potentially, trying to think if there's a police officer, like maybe a school resource officer. So that's our team. So when a child or children and their parents come before this team, we sit down together, not in a formal courtroom, but in a big conference room around a big oval table, and we discuss. We create a case plan for the family. We look at what kinds of services they need. And because there are juveniles involved in this process, the Department of Child Services pays for these programs. So the parents, again, do not have anything to worry about. Like, we can't afford that. I don't have the insurance to cover that. We got it. You know, you just do what you're supposed to do and we'll cover the cost of that. So that gives them really the best option and ability to succeed at the program. So we get together like every other week and we monitor how things are going. We can tweak the case plan and see how they're doing. We keep track of attendance and have that really close relationship with the school to make sure that that's happening. We can do home visits with the parents. We just stay on it. And every 2 weeks, they're coming in front of us more if they need to. If there's something emergent, then they can come more than that. So we have the ability to monitor. And that, I think, packs a little more punch than the Project Attend. Project Attend was early intervention to keep it out of the court system. This is past that. Now the court's involved. Now the deputy prosecutor's sitting there. The judge is sitting there. So you have to look me in the eye and tell me why you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. So it's a little more, I think, in your face about trying to keep up with what you're supposed to be doing. So
yeah, and then of course everything has been impacted by the pandemic. Attendance, and now the school year started off really not the way anyone would expect a school year.
Right.
You have some that are doing virtual only and will continue doing that until things get better. You have some that are doing a hybrid system, and then you have some that are doing in person. Now you layer that all in, and the behaviors of the children during this time can be pretty complex.
Yes.
You know, and now you have the virtual environment where, you know, it's the attendance issue. They don't show up for a virtual assignment. Is that technically related? Is it just a truant type situation?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Once you then I want to ask the question about behavior during virtual. So
okay, because those are separate. Let me just tell you, it was already, so we this truancy court has been a work in progress for several years. This year was spent getting it certified, and that is certified by the Office of Court Services, which is a branch of the Indiana Supreme Court. It is considered a problem-solving court, and problem-solving courts are very specifically set up to use evidence-based practices. And there's a whole, that's a whole nother lecture. And I mean, it gets pretty intricate, but it's basically putting practices in place with your program that have proven to be effective. So we want to make sure that we're not wasting everybody's time just kind of winging things. Well, let's try this, let's try that. No, we've got specific things that we've lined up that have proven for the most part to be very successful with families. So that is something we've been working on for certification. So this winter, when we were meeting, we were so excited about having this ready to go by September. Even then, before COVID hit, we were concerned about if we start this truancy court, every school has kind of a different interpretation of what constitutes an unexcused absence, for example. Oh, there's my kitty. Hi, baby. So I got photobombed by my cat.
Yeah, we have animals coming in all the time.
Yeah. So there are different schools. Like one school may consider a particular incident an unexcused absence, whereas another might not. So we've got disparity amongst, even within our Porter County schools with that, which makes it a little trickier. I thought of it as a challenge and we have a juvenile court summit with all the schools coming up on September 30th at the Expo Center. I look at it as a challenge to have all of our schools sit down together and say, we need to be on one page when it comes to how many absences are appropriate or not appropriate, what constitutes excused and what constitutes unexcused. Because if we can have some uniformity there, then we're going to all be better off for it. And people don't shift from one school to another to escape. This one's too strict for us. We're going to take our kids and put them over here. Let's throw in COVID now. COVID has made it so, like you said, you've got in-person learning, you've got e-learning or the remote learning, and then you've got the hybrid. That makes it nuts. So I don't know yet. You technically can be absent from remote learning by not logging in and doing things. So that may be something that we're going to be seeing, especially if this COVID thing continues on for a while. We may have to be assessing kids who are truant from remote learning because they are A, not logging on, or B, they are absolutely just not doing anything that they're supposed to be doing. So I don't know how that's going to unfold. You start blending these two forms and it really does get confusing. It will be a case-by-case basis for sure. And I know that we are going to definitely have to take into consideration the complexities that COVID brings to the situation. We just have to.
Yeah, it's during this whole period of time, obviously, where all schools were at home and virtual, which was nuts from the teachers, administrative. But
yes,
these children have really lived in a laxed environment, and now they have to go back to virtual. And one question I have about, and I'm not sure you can answer this fully or not because it's new, is the behavior, particularly illegal behavior during virtual education. How, I mean, legally, they're doing something they shouldn't do in school. Is that more of a school disciplinary? But if it's illegal, like pointing a gun at someone, or even though it's virtual and they can't hurt anyone, but giving some threatening gesture during that, how does that lay as far as the kid being held accountable?
I don't know the direct answer to that. My guess would be that if you have some kid who is doing virtual learning and pulls some sort of a stunt that A, is something that would have gotten them in trouble for at school, and B, that would get them in trouble legally, I don't see any difference because it's remote learning. I believe, when I have a court, we have a teen drug court that is similar to what this truancy court will be, only it's for teens that have addiction issues. We would have hearings or meetings around that same table at the Juvenile Services Center and meet with them in person. With COVID, we've started doing them by Zoom, and we've just only recently restarted back in person just this past week. But when we do it by Zoom, I've been very frustrated because as the drug court judge, I'm talking to a particular young man participant or something, and if he gets honked off at something that I say or something that one of my team members says, I've had kids just get up and walk away. You would never dream of doing that in a courtroom or in the hearing room where I'm sitting right across from you. But it's that ability to just be like, oh, you can't touch me. Yeah, we can. I mean, we can do that eventually. We will get our mitts on you, believe me. So that's something that I think with the schools, that's got to be very frustrating for them too, because they're only as good as the control that they have over the kids by way of video. And sometimes with some of these kids, that doesn't, you can't touch me. Good luck, have fun trying to rein me in or something. I think, in my situation with the hearings, I believe that if I'm on Zoom with you, you are in a hearing. You are, we set a record, you are on you're having a hearing. So if you get up and walk away, that could result in some punishment of some sort or sanction. I would think that would be the same kind of thing, that the minute that, that your remote learning starts, your school is in session, it would be just as if you're in school. So if you want to pull some kind of stunt, that is inappropriate for school or B, both with legally and school related, then you're going to probably face some consequences for that, I would think.
Well, I really do think they ought to get my 8th grade teacher, Sister Rosarita, clone her genes somehow and put her in place during virtual learning, because the God fear that she put in our class. Okay, I'm getting memories back.
Yeah, you're getting sweaty.
So wow. Yeah, and it is a complex world out there. It is, and hats off to you judges, prosecutors, law enforcement officials, and teachers. Oh my gosh, during this time, it is the world
God bless them.
Just flipped, and and we're all having to deal with it. And
yes, they are working their brains out, and I have so much admiration for the hard work that they do. I can't even imagine having to pivot as much as they did. Like in 2 seconds, all of a sudden their lives were upside down, and they had to convert to remote learning. And man, some of them, I wouldn't fault any of them for complaining about it at all. But many of them just forged ahead. We had to pivot in our courts. They have to pivot in the classroom, but they, I know, took on a lot more to be able to offer both options to families who were nervous about COVID. So, I give them a lot of props for that.
And
the only other thing I want to tell you about the Truancy Court bill is that, when somebody enters the Truancy Court program, it will last probably about 6 months or so, at least 6 months. And the reason for that would be so that we could make sure that we have enough time to work with those parents in whatever programs and the children, and also to establish a consistent enough track record with them attending school again to feel like we're confident that they actually, the information that they've been given has stuck, and that it's working for them. We can change that. It can be a little more if we feel like we need more services for them, but it's a lengthy program, but we keep them on track. And the hope is that if one of the kids, there's a group of 3 kids, like my example with the Smiths, if we can stop it with the first one, maybe the tools will be in place for the parents to not have it happen with the second and third child. Maybe they'll learn something along the way. They'll be stronger, and we have stronger families and stronger kids.
We should start wrapping up here pretty soon.
Okay.
But one thing I do want to say, just from a outside perspective, Porter County seems to make exceptional use of these problem-solving courts. And really, the tag that I would put it on all, they really are in the business of changing people's lives for the better, giving them the opportunity to correct their actions before the worst happens. And that is only good by the excellent partnership you have with the sheriff, with the prosecutor. You're all on the board to help people out, whether it be the drug court, the veterans court, and now the Truancy court. And there's another court out there. I think, remember someone telling me about. Isn't there
Restoration Court?
Restoration Court.
Yes. That's with Judge Chittister. And that is, we call it a restoration court, but the gist of it is it's a mental health court, because a lot of the people that come into our system have mental health issues that aren't being addressed. And sometimes those are at the root of why people are committing criminal acts. So if we can get to the heart of that and help them with medication and treatment and counseling, then we can get them on a solid footing so that they aren't committing crimes anymore.
Yeah. Our hats are off for all of you that whether sitting on the bench or out there in the field having to solve problems. It's great work being done in Porter County.
Thank you. And you know what, Bill? We honestly, this isn't a me thing at all. This is like all of us judges have such good relationships with our prosecutor and his staff, our public defender and his staff, the police, the sheriff, the mental health agencies in our community, the domestic violence groups in our community. We've got such a strong collaborative kind of thing going in Porter County. We are very blessed with that, and I'm thankful. And it makes life so much easier to try to solve problems when you're not divisive and everybody's egos getting in the way. It makes it much easier and much more fun to try to figure out how we can do better for our community.
Yeah. I tell you, and Kelly and I are so glad that we're in Porter County, and I'm what I'm really glad about as a grandparent and a parent of two lovely daughters and some great grandkids, I feel reassured them being here because of all the things that you all do at the legal level to just not protect them, but to help them is amazing. And it's something that should be modeled in other areas of the United States, definitely.
We are behind those kids. I think that kids are our future, and we need to do everything that we can to protect them and to help them flourish.
Yeah, definitely. Again, thank you for what you do, Judge. It's so much appreciated. And is there anything else you want to close with before we close up the show?
I think we've said it. I appreciate the opportunity to share this with the people. I've been spreading the word at different groups and schools and talking to the superintendents about some of this, but I just am so proud of what our team has put together with this court. I think it could be something really amazing. And I kind of have joked with it before, but I don't want kids skipping school to be in this court, but I kind of want somebody to skip school so I can see how this works. It's kind of like we need to get it rolling, but it is complicated with COVID, and we're just sitting back. We're ready to roll. We're excited about it. So it's going to be a good thing for Porter County.
Well, someone should rack up this, whoever came up with this COVID stuff, they should be racked up and sent to life. So
Yes.
Oh, boy. Well, thank you again, and for everything you do. And with that, we'll wrap up the show. And
thanks, Phil.
Thank you. And and stay safe out there and enjoy the rest of the week. Goodbye for now.
This episode of The Bill and Callie Show is brought to you by
the committee to elect Mary DeBoer.
Hi, this is Judge Mary. I wanted to share how very grateful I am for the supporters who have made those pink campaign signs throughout Porter County possible. My name is Mary DeBoer, your Porter Circuit Court Judge. It seems as though our country is more divided than ever. Crossing the political party aisle with the hope of working together has flown out the window. In a career spanning almost 30 years, I learned long ago that judges must not only enforce the law, but we must protect our communities and provide blind justice for all citizens. An honest and fair judge cannot be concerned with a person's political affiliation, race, religion, or sexuality. Fairness and equality make up the fabric of our justice system. Cast your vote for the Porter Circuit Court based on measurable experience and proven qualifications. Visit www.judgemary2020.org to learn more or to contact me directly. It is an honor to share information about our courts, programs, and efforts to best serve our community. A vote for Judge Mary, Porter County's only female judge, is a vote to keep the best qualified, experienced, and fair-minded candidate regardless of party affiliation. This message was paid for and approved by the committee to elect Mary DeBoer.